Yeah.
Welcome everybody to the third episode of Unboxing New Music with Boon Hua. And today I have a very, very special guest, a very old friend, Dr. Chen Zhangyi, or Assistant Professor Chen Zhangyi. Professor? Zhangyi, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Getting a bit old. Yes.
So
But
maybe, sorry?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, old friends. Go way back to youth orchestra days, and remember our Vienna trip. Right, we were on the
Oh yeah,
bus, and it's just
absolutely.
sitting at the back, and just yeah, it was fun. Just it was for me. That was just before YST started, and yeah, it was great fun.
Yeah, I mean, every time I talk about Zhangyi's music, there is always a very unique kind of harmonic language that every time I hear his music, I know it's him. You know, there's this kind of the major seventh chord or something about those colors that when I hear, I know it's Zhangyi, and really nobody else can write it. And maybe today the point of our whole episode is just to unbox what makes Zhangyi's language so distinctive. So as Zhangyi was saying about how we met in the Singapore National Youth Orchestra, and I remember him playing the Sibelius Violin Concerto with the orchestra. He was a soloist, and we were all playing the orchestra. And he mentioned the Vienna trip where we hung out a lot at the back of the bus, very naughty kids. And at the same time, at the same time he was also in the army, and he was a guardsman. So I was always very blown away. I'm like, oh my God, wow, this is like, 文武双全, which means like, has both brains and balls. So, I mean, I have a lot of admiration for him, and now we are colleagues. So maybe Zhangyi, could you just introduce yourself and how you got into music, how this whole, how you got started?
Oh, actually, the very first time I started with music, it was it was a fail. I think it was like 5 or 6 years old, and then my mom signed me up for like electron classes. I totally failed. I have no coordination or concentration or whatever at that age. So then during primary school years, I was more into actually Chinese painting, calligraphy, and I thought I was going to be an artist when I was 10 years old. And that was when I picked up the violin at about 9 years old. And yeah, that was, it's fun. There was a violin ensemble at my primary school, which was very rare.
Oh.
So yeah, and then eventually when I went to secondary school, art kind of took a back seat, and then I was like totally into music. I was in the choir. I was playing violin from 5 to 10 hours a day. Yeah, so that was how I got into really interested in music, and I was like really clear at 14 years old. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a musician. What type of musician I didn't know, but I thought, okay, maybe join the SSO as a violinist. That would be pretty cool. Of course, that wasn't so easy. Yeah, so that's kind of how I grew up with music, and I was kind of late to the party, joining the youth orchestra at like 21. Yeah, I was an old kid by then, and everyone was like 15, 16, 17 and playing like all sorts of concertos and stuff. Yeah.
So when you went to YSC, how do you decide to go into composition instead of violin, for example?
When the school started, it was more clear cut. There was no really not any way for you to double major. So I applied for both composition and violin, and yeah. So I guess there were less people applying for composition, and I got a place to study composition. So that worked out really well. I didn't know at that time, but it's I mean, it's I think as a musician, having an instrument that you can play proficiently is really important. And then sing in the choir and be able to write music, arrange music. It's all the skills come in really handy. So being a composer, it's really every note you write is there, good or bad, is there. As a violinist, as a performer, it disappears after the sound is made. So it's slightly different kind of perspective, but nevertheless still part of being a musician. I still play a little bit, degraded to the viola now. And Baroque viola. So it's like
I'm not going to comment on that.
Yeah.
How about your education at Peabody, and how did that kind of expanded your your search for kind of a distinctive voice in your compositions?
Going to Peabody was one of the milestones where the repertoire that I know, and then the style that I was exposed to, styles were very different. And then gradually I found a kind of a sound that I like, and then kept doing it. So maybe it's time I use a different chord. But yeah, it was great. At being at Peabody, there was this collaboration between Yong and Peabody at that time, and doing that was it's a bigger school. There's more things happening in terms of class offerings and just more people, a different kind of dynamic. So then there was opportunity to play in the orchestra, take some conducting lessons, play in the Baroque orchestra, sing in the choir again, and write for a bunch of different instruments. And yeah, it was a lot of fun going to the Baltimore Symphony, going to hear the New York Philharmonic, the Met Opera, things like that. It just opens your eyes and ears, and then yeah, it gives you a different perspective.
Well, it seems to me that performing is always a very integral part of your life. Even as a composer, you are always performing. Either some Baroque ensembles or all that. And is there something of an advice you will give like your younger colleagues?
Yeah, definitely. I think being part of an ensemble, whatever instrument you play, it could be one triangle hit, and that requires so much attention and focus. And so it's really great being immersed in this orchestra or in the choir or in the opera setting. Remember, did you used to play for SLO also?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so that was amazing too. When I was freelancing, I played in the pit quite a few times, violin, sometimes viola. So
I'm sure we played together, right?
Yeah, I'm sure. Did you play Turandot together? I don't know.
No, I didn't play Turandot, but I played La Traviata, I played La Boheme, and I played Double Flutter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely one of those. And then playing at the Philharmonic Orchestra. I think my first concert playing viola was like I had to sit on the first desk, and it was just like super crazy. And then leave me there, and then it's like your audition. You sit in the first desk, and then you play okay. Anyway, that was we played all the Sibelius symphonies.
Yes, I remember
Not all
that too.
I did 5, 6, 7. I think. Yeah. That was,
I think seven is a very special piece. I mean, since we are speaking about opera, would you talk a little bit about kind of the trend of chamber opera in Singapore, and then with that we can kind of pivot into your first piece for tonight, Kopi for One.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so it's the opera scene has changed immensely the last 10 years or so. Maybe around 2012, 2013, I wrote for the Singapore Lyric Opera, a kind of halfway mix between an opera and musical called Pursuant. So that was a lot of fun. But that was SLO was pretty much the only opera company back then, 2012, 13. So now we have a whole range of different opera companies from definitely SLO is still there doing one big opera a year and a few other productions, I believe. And then there is New Opera, which does quite large size operas and maybe of later repertoire, maybe like Britain. We do a lot of Britain, I think. Newer stuff, Poulenc, kind of first half of the century maybe. And then there's La Reta, obviously, focuses on chamber opera, sung in English, living composers. There's Opera People, relatively new, but doing exciting stuff. They always have a really clear theme. And I've written for them recently, the recent concert. Really exciting collaboration with singing lit god, Cyril Wong. So that was scary meeting him for the first time. And then finding out he also sings. Was an interesting meeting with him. And he recited the poem, parts of the poem, while the singer and the pianist was performing it. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I think I went to the show after the first show, so I didn't catch you there. So
I went to the first one, yes.
Yeah, I went to the second one by the Opera People. What I'm really curious is what makes opera so attractive to you as a composer?
There's nothing like a show where everything comes together, for better or worse. The music, the visuals, the set, and the drama. Oh, it's amazing. I first realized this when I was doing Pursuant with SLO. And I was always concerned about the notes. It was always about the sound and the notes. But then with the production, it's everything. Everything has to come together. This whole Wagnerian Gesamtkunstwerk thing, the total work of art, everything adds together. There's so many moving parts, which makes it very scary, but more exciting. So that was when I was like, wow, I wrote this, and then there were so many other people who contributed the dance, the movement, the set, the digital projection, singing, chorus master, and then all the soloists. It's just, mind-blowing. I felt like I was a little bit closer to Mozart at that time. It's like, okay, this is it. I understand why Mozart was so into opera. It's just nothing like it. And I love writing concertos and writing for symphonies, chamber music, songs. But it's really the ultimate form that it takes a lot of money and effort and rehearsals, but it's worth it.
I mean, as a conductor for myself, what really attracts me to opera is really about the text and the human voice. I mean, I think the human voice is really the ultimate instrument, and just the ability to, it's so easy for people to relate to the voice, and how the text, gives so much imagination to both the composer and the conductor and the interpreter, the singers. There's so much things to play around with it. So before we play Kopi for One, would you like to just give us kind of a backstory, what this is about?
Sure. So Kopi for One was the third chamber opera that I wrote with my friend Jack Lien. And by then we've done a theme on Laksa, we have done one on shopping, window shopping. And then I was like, okay, so these are really Singaporean pastimes, right? Favorite hobbies of Singaporeans, to eat nice food and go shopping, window shopping, go to the free aircon. And then, okay, what else is really common and like everyone loves. Is obviously coffee. I am a huge coffee addict. So there was once I was hanging out at this Plaza Singapore next to Sota, right? So I came across this book. And when I saw that, I was already having this coffee theme in my head. I was gonna, we're working on this coffee opera, and then I saw this book, sketchbook by Alvin Mark Tan, and I opened it. And it was beautiful. It had all these sketches of kopitiams and cafes, and it was an assembly ground. So then I took a picture. I sent it to Loretta, and it was like, hey, we have to get this guy to design our sets and our posters. I was like, it's a long shot, right? But I did that, and then who knows? 2 months later, he was on the team. So we get that really nice triptych. This poster of the 3 operas in one picture. Yeah. That was also the set, and it's his classic sketching plus watercolor style. Okay, yeah. So then that really took off, and although it took a long time to get the libretto out, we have like 9 or 10 or 11 versions of the libretto. It was a difficult time for Jack because it's some sort of personal reasons, yeah. So he lost his parents, his father, and he was having a hard time to deal with that. So in a way, this work is his way of it's like a tribute to his father. So there's a lot of this theme about family, yeah, father and daughter relationship. So Jack is the daughter in the story, a little bit by autobiographical, and there was one instance I saw. This is like the 6th edition of the libretto. I was like, Jack, maybe we need a coffee or aria, like describe the coffee in a way that parallels the life of the daughter. He was like, I don't know, maybe not. And then the next day he was like, yeah, it's a good idea. So we have the daughter's aria because of that kind of parallel, that imagination between.
Would you just bring us through very quickly, like what happens in the story, and so people can have a context when they listen to this particular excerpt, the coffee aria,
sure,
and a bit of the father's aria as well.
Yeah, the coffee for one has 3 characters. It starts with the kopitiam. The kopitiam auntie is getting the shop ready, so she's the comic relief. So she has an aria. And then the daughter arrives. They have a little recit, oh, I remember you, kind of thing. Then the daughter sings her sad aria, talking about, I was born for a land far away. So apparently she moved away and came back for the father's funeral. But she didn't, and then the kopitiam auntie didn't know that the father has died. But she still sees him, so it's kind of like a ghost story. Then the father enters and then has this recit between these 2 conversation with the kopitiam auntie. They're like, bickering, auntie and uncles at the kopitiam. Then after that, he sings his aria, and he sings how this estranged relationship with the daughter. And finally, they all come together and have this finale, this trio, where all of them sings bits of their aria at the same time, and all in counterpoint. And at the very end, then we realize, okay, the father's a ghost, and then that's the end of the opera.
There are some comments on Facebook saying, "Oh no spoilers."
It's okay. It's been done before. Yeah.
So maybe let's just jump to the music so everybody can hear this beautiful piece.
Sure.
Okay, here we go.
So, what will it be? Milo? Dinosaur?
You remembered. Actually, just a coffee for me. Black.
Oh, grown up, huh?
Yes, well, we all have to grow up eventually.
One kopi o kau kosong. Just like an old man. Sit. I'll bring it over.
My life has the essence of coffee. Wrong for a land far away. The fruit once sweet, but now is bitter. The lingering aroma pulls me back this way. Every sip of that aromatic brew percolates the misery from my youth, writing down the seeds of my soul. Only sourness remains as in my heart, I yearn for the floral roast, but that elusive whiff will not last, not finding solace on this soulless coast. I love to seek what I lacked in my past. Lost and charred, I march on with haste. Now I drink to quench my thirst. Only to curse. Now I drink only to prolong
my curse. My curse. Well, well, look who comes crawling in. I thought you'd never come.
Surprising man.
You're late.
I was busy floating around. But you know I have no life.
Floating around? Like a ghost, is it?
Why? Haven't seen one before
No, just you.
How long have I been coming here?
Far too many years. Oh, fool.
Hey, I'm your most loyal customer there.
Usual?
Something new?
Hey, old man, nothing new for you. Just stick to your usual.
Fine. Okay.
Hey, you know she's just like you, the Kopi Gao Gao.
She's here today?
Who? Your darling? Me? Yes, she's here. She seems sad. You better go over there and talk to her.
About what?
You love her, don't you?
When I'm ready.
Ready? When will you ever be ready?
How do I even say the words?
Fool! Go make it right. I will check on you later with your kopi.
Why is this so hard for me? I have journeyed across time. There is nothing left to be. Fought my battles in my prime. When she entered my life, my world was shattered with tears and joy, tears and joy. But she revived me, and my wife, as we came to grieve the loss of our boy. There is nothing more satisfying than to give her
I know everybody is just completely taken in at this moment, but I have to stop,
Yeah, sure.
unfortunately. And who are the singers on this recording?
It was Yiping. Yiping was the waitress, the auntie, kopitiam auntie. This London-based singer, really one of the not pioneer, but she's yeah, the kind of prima donna in a good way of Singapore. She sang at NTPA some years ago, so she's famous. Then there's of course there's Laurita's Akiko, and she was I think newly pregnant with baby Amy at that time, so the little bump was showing during the show, which gave extra kind of dramatic effect in a good way. Yeah, there's this sense of loss, and then there's this sense of new life just from our personal life. And Jonathan Charles Tay of the opera people was also a new father at that time. New father. I think that's one of the reasons why they asked John. And I was also when we started writing the grant for this, Clara was born, so she was like, I don't know, 2 weeks, and then I remember having a meeting with Ruben and Akiko, and I think Jamieson was that too. Anyway, at my music room next door, and talking about the grants and applying for the creation grants. So thank you, NAC and Caroline. Yeah, so that was pretty much very personal from all of us. There's a lot of personal kind of anecdotes and stories in the music, and I've written in some of my impressions of my father and my own impressions of myself as a father. So there's Clara's theme, there's Winnie's theme, when the words my daughter appear, when the words my wife appears. That was our proposal theme. I used that to propose to her 5 years ago. Yeah. So that it's a very personal piece. It's about family. We also can use kind of this kopitiam setting to tell this story. Yeah.
Great. I think Akiko and John are listening in, so hello to both of them.
Yeah. Hi guys.
And there's a really wonderful comment by Emily. And she was saying something about how Singlish is so nuanced and efficient. Of course, in our spoken language, we understand that very, very well. But I mean, using that in opera libretto, I think that's a very interesting idea. Well, I don't know if it's an idea, but it does seem to be quite unique. And obviously, your singers have fantastic accents.
Yeah, that's one of the things that is kind of part of the theater when we have to talk about the accents. So we're listening to this new studio recording. Jack made this comment about the way the kopitiam auntie says pa, and the way that Akiko says pa is totally different, and that has this. I think John Shin is also on the line in listening in. He wrote this paper about the trilogy, and he has this chart about all these different stages of different levels, different kinds of Singlish, how Singlish or how like close to proper English it is. So there's this spectrum, and we definitely have to be aware of that when we are using this as a part of this musical effect. And
yeah, especially for it to be replicated elsewhere, right?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to replicate elsewhere, but we can try. I think that links into the next piece because of the trio, the 3 characters in this piece. I finished. Well, we did the Singapore trilogy end of 2018. And then it was about that time when YST asked me to write a piece for the Korea trip, which was 2019 April. It's not a lot of time to write a 20-minute triple concerto. Okay, it didn't have to be 20 minutes, but musically it turned out to be 20 minutes. And this idea of the soloists as dramatic characters, as protagonists, came to mind, and this idea of a broken narrative where all of them have like episodic presentations, and then their lives kind of interweave. This was also a process in the triple concerto, which we'll hear played by, it was written specifically for the three, then they were students then, Suyin on the zhongruan, Yuru Li on the paigu and marimba, and then Li Kilo on the erhu. She's actually a composition major, and Suyin is he's a portfolio musician, extraordinaire, and does everything. His major was audio arts, but he composes, he does producing and film, yeah, lots of stuff. So these three incredibly talented musicians. It was written specifically for them, so I used my impressions of them to write the initial sketches of their music, and it was a fun experiment to ask them whether it was accurate portrayal of their personalities after the project.
And what did they say? I mean, that's really interesting, being able to portray. I mean, didn't they say this about Richard Strauss, that he can portray anything, even a coffee table, that he can portray it with music? A broomstick, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that I can do that. It's pretty yeah, it's a high level to be able to do that. But yeah, let's listen to it, and then maybe you can get a feel of the different personalities, definitely.
Absolutely. Just kind of disclaimer, and also as I think I saw a comment by Siew saying, there's kind of this double compression going on from Facebook and then also from Zoom. So what you're hearing, the audience listening in, the sound might be a little bit distorted. So usually what I do after these after this session, I will upload also another version on YouTube, which doesn't have this problem. So we bypass the problem of both Zoom and Facebook. So do check that out if you want to listen more, listen again with the score. So right now, let's jump into the triple concerto, which is called San Ren Sing. Before I play, can you just tell us very quickly the title, San Ren Sing, and non-English, non-Chinese speakers?
Sure.
How does that translate?
So it literally is three people traveling. And it's a Confucian line, and it's an obvious title because three soloists, and then we are traveling to Korea, and then there's this shared Confucian kind of culture, this East Asian cultural sphere that anywhere from Hong Kong, Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, Korea, it's all part of this East Asian cultural sphere, right? Even though, well, technically Singapore is Southeast Asia, but it's this cultural region. Vietnam, I think, also part of this cultural sphere. And anyway, so I thought that was one obvious common thing. So I went with that, and San Ren Sing is pretty much the easiest Chinese words that you can get in the title. And we were traveling to Seoul, so that was an obvious title for me. And then I found out it was a Chinese restaurant name. Yeah, I think that's a Chinese restaurant. Or maybe it's a mala or some ramen store. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I only had time to start writing this basically in December when the semester ended. after the trilogy ended, the production, and I remember I was serving my reservists for 2 weeks, and then I have my sketchbook, and I have Stockhausen's Gruppen, I have a couple of other scores with me. So this is definitely taken a leaf out of those 1950 mid 1900s kind of works where we divide the orchestra up, and that was an advice that Jason had given me. So think of different ways to split up the orchestra, and then I think he didn't think that I would actually split them out so much, as in to rearrange the seating. Yeah, but I took his advice to the kind of extreme. Yeah, so Stockhausen's Gruppen and the work that I wrote for my DMA dissertation, I think Carter's Double Concerto definitely have a part to play in kind of distribution of the orchestra. There are three groups: the Erhu group, then there's the percussion group in the middle, and then the Zhongran group at the bottom. In the score on the stage is left to right, and they all have kind of a small chamber ensemble behind them.
Yeah, as you can see on the chart there, I mean that's kind of your idea of it. So why don't we dive into the music? And the score is being cut out, so there are other instruments playing as well, which really threw me off the first time I heard it. I'm like, I definitely heard a bassoon somewhere. So this is just so, I mean, Zhangyi has very kindly cut the score so it fits the screen better for everybody. So here is Sanxian Triple Concerto. I'm going to stop there, unfortunately, again, because of time constraints.
Yeah, that's the part when Licky was like, you know, I'm not really the motherly type. Oh, you know, this tremolo is kind of this sewing thread kind of analogy for the this famous Chinese poem 慈母手中线. So and she was like, I thought you were talking about the sewing machine. She was playing it so fast, and it was really funny. This kind of backstory behind it, and she was like, you know, I'm not really that kind of maybe quiet. I think she's quiet. I thought she was quiet, but she says she's like she yeah. That's not. I got it totally wrong. You super virtuosic and energetic, but he's not like an angry kind of young person. You know, of course, you know, in the music, it has to be a little bit more dramatic than real life. Suwin has all the hip and fun music because you know he's the guy who's into film music and all that. So he gets all the more groovy stuff. Everyone's jealous of him. There was this question when we asked all the soloists after I did a kind of video interview with them. Then if you could exchange music with someone else, whose music do you want? Everyone wanted Suwin's music.
Suwin's music.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of fun and there's a lot of That is the sound of the instrument also is very, very distinctive for me. I was
Thank you.
going
Thank you.
to I
Sorry.
was going to ask you about something, and then it just escaped my mind. Oh my God.
No worries.
Okay. No, please,
You
if
have
you
it?
want to continue. Yeah, I'm just trying to dig back. But if you want to go on.
Yeah, it was not an easy piece to write. Chen Wei just gave me a really surprising comment saying the Chinese instruments written very idiomatically. So that's a huge compliment coming from Chen Wei. I wish his book was out when I was writing this piece, but it came out like right after. Anyway, yeah, so it was really fun writing for Hu and Zhongran and Paiku, imagining the sticking and then imagining the fingering for the Zhongran. Hu, I cannot, yeah, it's just not possible to pick up in a couple of months. Even though I play violin, it's just, yeah, it's just not an easy instrument. But Zhongran, I got pretty good when I was writing this piece. And of course, now I'm totally back to zero. And a nice realization was the other piece that I was inspired by was Takemitsu's November Steps. So and I realized through some research, he actually studied the biwa seriously for two years, and he could play quite decently, I think. So,
Wow.
so that was amazing to find out some of these backstories. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
now I remember what I
yeah,
was going to say. I will put up links for the people listening. I'll put up links for a recording that was done by the YSC Orchestra on YouTube. In the comments later when I make a post about this, so people can check out the entire video of the performance. I think this was live in Esplanade with
yeah.
Jason Lai conducting the Conservatory Orchestra. Great. So, wow, I mean, it was 1 hour has just flew by very, very quickly. And I'm very happy that we got to, not just talk about your music and the ideas behind your music, but also to play for a lot of the audience. It's very, very lively comment section today. I cannot really keep up, which is very fun. That's really
Yeah.
wonderful. Well, is I just wanted to pivot very, very quickly into, now you're teaching at YST, and I just wanted to get some of your thoughts about, kind of like inspiring the next generation. Like what are some of your ideas on that? Because I think we are living in a very, very exciting musical scene in Singapore right now. There's so many kind of confluences of different cultures, which is what makes our music really kind of distinctive. I mean, in this piece already, you have Chinese instruments, fronting a Western orchestra. So I was just wondering if you have any thoughts on that.
Oh yeah, it's a big thing. This idea of syncretism and all this Asian Western instruments playing the same piece. So there's a lot of resources you can look up. I'm not gonna go into a lecture now, but we have to think about it as musicians working here. I mean, there's really obvious groups that are doing this full time, or at least most of the time. Open Score project with Shafika, with this Asian Cultural Symphony, with Adrian
Adrian
and
Chiang.
yeah, Adrian Chiang, and there's of course Ding Yi always collaborates with musicians of other cultures, and yeah, there's a lot happening, and so we are definitely thinking about it. And at YST, I coordinate some classes, and I try to put in some of this, like Tony Macaroni. There's some. He's like a guru, right, on Indian music. So
Yeah.
asked him to do some Carnatic music. Also, Suwin also recently did some Chinese music as a little kind of workshops with students, first, second year students. We have a lot of this different workshops, film music, Malay music, kompang with Shafika, Chinese music with Suin, Indian music, jazz. Yeah, it's just like it is hard to just follow the Western, first year harmony, second year harmony kind of structure in an Asian context. So we of course we still have to cover that at the same time exposing all our musicians to all this different stuff. And then if they like something, then they can really go deeper into that. And that's all we can do. I mean, I don't think we actually inspire anyone. I mean, come on, face the facts. Yeah, so we just try to do stuff that makes sense. And I teach this class, which I'm increasingly excited about, is text and music. So it's, for me, writing operas and writing for songs for choirs, everything that uses text, and then pieces that have kind of programmatic or some sort of influence from text, or poetry or painting. So that is a class that is kind of open-ended, but also very exciting, because it's almost like a cross-discipline kind of. I mean, of course, I'm no poet or artist in terms of the visual sense, but as through a musician's perspective, how does all these different art forms influence artworks, influence music? That's really interesting to look at. And so that's a class I have lots of passion for right now. The other class is counterpoint through the ages. So we look at a lot of counterpoint. That's also my other favorite musical technique, to put different layers together, and how it adds together to give a greater sum of the parts.
Great. That's no wonder you're so busy in school.
It's fun. I love looking at music with people, especially older music. Yeah.
For sure. Great. Well, I mean, thank you for your time, and I just wanted to wrap out and kind of put out a message to everybody listening in that this unboxing new music is, we're kind of in the middle point at the end of this episode 3, and I have some plans about what's going to happen after this first installment of 6 composers, but I would still love to hear your ideas. What would you like to see? What would you like to listen to? And I'm looking forward to reading your comments and feedback, and how we can to hear what's interesting for you. Lastly, I just wanted to check the comment section just to see if I missed out anything. A lot of people had fun in your class. I wish I had that class. This is by Ting Chun. Yeah, me too.
Which one?
It's funny. I'm starting to I've always liked jazz, but I've never really looked at it carefully. And during this circuit breaker, I was really starting to play all 251 stuff, and I started to realize, it's so the 7s and the 2nds and the 6s, and then the sharp 4s and stuff. It's so beautiful in harmony. And I'm such a late comer to this. I wish I did that when I was younger. Great. I guess everybody is fawning over your music.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure sharing the music, and thanks to all the musicians. I think just to end off, I always write the music with musicians, and just imagining them playing or singing it, and it has to,
the personalities, right?
Yes, it has to be written specifically for somebody, at least the first time it's premiered. And then everything will fall in place. That's my
certain aspect of tailor-made. Bespoke. So I guess I guess to end off, I like to say that living composers are awesome because they're just a phone call away. You can just call them and talk to them, and that's something why I really love doing contemporary music. right now. So thank you all for tuning in, and then please tune in also on Saturday. We have a session with Ko Chen Jin, a very young and very talented composer. So see you all on Saturday. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.